What's up, guys? Matt here, coming at you with a quick video on how I make my links for these custom SCX24 builds that I do. This is a very simple method that is cheap, and I mean, it's just as easy as it gets. It's really not a how-to. It's like what pieces you need, because it's that simple, okay? So I get this threaded rod from Amazon. They have lots of different lengths that you can get. I'll link it in the description. So as you can see, you can get different lengths of this depending on what you need. Now that's the hardest part, is just figuring out what you need your links to be, overall length, top and bottom. But I just keep a lot of this stuff around. You can actually cut down the threads a little bit to shorten a piece if you need to. So you can kind of bridge the gap between these two. You know, if this is the two that you have, you could cut this one a little bit to make it just a hair longer than the other one. So I think you get what I mean there. And then these rod ends. So usually a lot of times I will just leave them like that. I figure the super thin link, the less material there, the more clearance I get, right? But sometimes this will bend if you really get it in a bind. And sometimes, like if I throw this in a bag or something, it'll get bent and warped. So I like to sleeve them at times with these. So you'll see, like I did on this Athos build here, those turned out pretty good. Now these are not professional. I mean, this is just me throwing some stuff together, and that's why I'm saying, like, this is really not a tutorial. It's like, here's some stuff that works, right? So this tubing you can get at Hobby Lobby. You can see here it was $5 for like 4 pieces, I think, was in here. And it works really well for sleeving these. You can get it in brass as well if you want. There's 3 pieces in this one for $4.50. You can do a lot of links with those though. And so basically, all I do is kind of figure out what length I'm gonna go with. Put your rod end on. So I like to get one rod end on completely. And then you can see that fits over that just perfectly. So we'll kind of measure this, get an idea. I like to leave this just a little bit long, because these rod ends, as you can see, they don't screw all the way down onto the threads. So you have to allow for that. That's why I was saying you can cut just a little bit of the threads off of these very easily, and then your rod end will come down here flush. That shortens up your link, obviously. So it really just depends on what length you're gonna need, how you wanna do these. But I got one of these little cutters. I think they have these at Hobby Lobby too, maybe. It's just like a little pipe cutter, and it works like pipe cutters. You can kind of get it in place, tighten it down a little bit, turn this, tighten that. Just go a little bit at a time. You'll cut a good clean edge. Now I like to go ahead and just kind of sleeve these on here, put my other rod end on, and then I'm gonna do another one just like it. So I like to do them, both of the links, straight at first. Then I put them both together, kind of make the bend on them at the same time. It's just easier to kind of get the bend the same, in my opinion. Now if you get these together and you realize, like, you've got a lot of slop in here, you cut this a little too short, like I said, you can go cut a little bit off of those threads and clean it up. So this one looks pretty good. So I would just go ahead and make another one just like this. And then I basically just bend these by hand. You can get a pipe bender like this. You can set these things in here and bend them. This stuff's so thin, you can bend it by hand. So once I get my 2 links together where I want them, kind of hold them together and just make my bend where I want the bends. Usually we're kind of doing like a double bend a lot of times. So you can see I kind of bent it a little here and a little here. And that just helps you kind of get both of them the same bend. Again, these are not perfect. I'm not a professional at anything. So, you know, there's different ways to do this. You can use standoffs with regular links. You can do, I mean, you can do a lot of different things. But this is just so simple and cheap. I've been doing it for a long time and they work really well. So I wanted to go ahead and lengthen this rear end a little bit because when I built this, I didn't have this length of rod around. So I'm working on trying to extend this just a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and make another one here, and I'll show you guys how I bend this up. So there you can see we've got some pretty good looking links, just no bend yet. So I like to sort of put these together like this. You can put a screw through there. It kind of helps you hold them in place. And then just start giving them a little bend. It's a little tougher doing two at the same time. But once you kind of get your bend where you want it, then you can give them just a little bit more. So just doing one at a time, it's much easier. So sometimes I'll just kind of eyeball these. You can put them up against the table and kind of push them, you know, bend them at the same time. It's a little bit easier. I will usually just get my bends kind of where I want them and then kind of eyeball it, bend them just a little bit more if I need to, and get them as close as I can. These are not perfect, but they're not gonna cost me $70 or $80 either. So it works great for me. In my opinion, much better than paying 70 bucks for a set of links. So as far as my uppers go, I almost always like to leave this thin, wiry material because it's more clearance. So you can see if I add that tubing to these outboard style links here, I'm gonna get closer to kind of hitting them on the chassis rails and stuff. So for me, a lot of the times I leave them like that. I just decided to go ahead and do these because I needed to make a longer set with the tubing, because they are so long that if you get this in a bad bind, sometimes it will kind of crinkle them up. And then if I just throw this in a bag or something and something kind of lays on it, they will get warped a little bit. So pretty simple way to make the links. Like I said, not perfect. You guys let me know what you think. I appreciate you sticking around. I'll link everything in the description, and I'll get these tossed on. We'll go run this thing so you can check them out. Peace. I really wish I had ISOs on here. It would climb so much better. It's still amazing, but geez, it would just go anywhere with ISOs.